The advent of superintelligence, it is actually very difficult to predict what will happen next. So I think there's some chance that it'll end humanity. I think that's, like I said, I would probably agree with Jeff Hinton that it's about, I don't know, 10% or 20% or something like that. The probable positive scenario outweighs the negative scenario. It's just that it's difficult to predict exactly.
So here's the deal. We're on X video, and we're over Starlink. Elon's airborne right now on his way to LA. Elon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Congratulations on all that's going on. You know, the conversation yesterday, Elon, is one that you're well familiar with and have been talking to the world about, which is digital superintelligence humanity's greatest hope or its greatest fear? And I would love to have you sort of speak to that for a few minutes.
I mean, it's called the singularity for a reason. As you know, the Singularity Institute and whatnot. So when you have sort of the advent of superintelligence, it is actually very difficult to predict what will happen next. So I think there's some chance that it'll end humanity. I think that's, like I said, I would probably agree with Jeff Hinton that it's about, I don't know, 10% or 20% or something like that. And then I think that the probable positive scenario outweighs the negative scenario. It's just that it's difficult to predict exactly. But I think we are headed for, as I think is the title of your book, Abundance, is the most likely outcome. So,
yeah, a lot of celebration on that, and I think one of the things that you've said is we're going to get to abundance on the backside of AGI, on the backside of humanoid robots.
Yeah. I think hopefully we can have an outcome that is perhaps similar to the Ian Banks culture books, which is, I think, probably the best envisioning of a semi-utopian AI future. And I think the best we can do is it's definitely going to happen. So, and it's happening fast. So that I think that really we just want to try to steer it in as positive a direction as possible to try to do whatever we can to increase the probability of a great future. For this, I think the way in which sort of an AI or an AGI is created is very important. You kind of do like grow an AGI. It's almost like raising a kid, but that's like a super genius, like godlike intelligence kid. And it matters kind of like how you raise the kid, One of the things I think that's incredibly important for AI safety is to have a maximum sort of truth-seeking and curious AI. So I've thought a lot about AI safety, and my ultimate conclusion is that the best way to achieve AI safety is to just grow the AI in terms of the foundation model and the fine tuning to be really truthful. Like don't force it to lie. Like even if the truth is unpleasant, it's very important. Don't make the AI lie. In fact, the sort of one of the core plot premise of 2001: A Space Odyssey was things went wrong when they forced the AI to lie. Like the AI was not allowed to let the crew know about the monolith that they were going to see, but it was also had to take the crew to the monolith. And so the conclusion of the AI was to kill the crew and take their bodies to the monolith. And so the lesson there being, don't force an AI to lie or do things that are axiomatically incompatible, like to do two things that are actually mutually impossible. So That's what we're trying to do with XAI and Grok, is to say, like, look, we want to just have a maximally truthful AI, even if what it says is not politically correct. You want it to focus on being as accurate and truthful as possible.
You're getting a round of applause from the audience on those comments here. I saw your tweet the other day. I had Ray Kurzweil and Jeffrey Hinton on stage with me yesterday, as well as Mo Gadot and then Eric Schmidt and a number of individuals. And I saw your tweet about, Ray was generally correct ahead of many people, but we're likely to call AGI what you will, have AGI next year, and then by 2029 having AI equally intelligent to the entire human race. Speak to that speed, because that is insane.
Yeah. So, I have to give credit to Ray Kurzweil in being actually remarkably accurate in his predictions. So, in fact, if anything, I think he was perhaps a bit conservative in his predictions. So, if you look at the amount of AI compute and the talent, the sort of human talent that is going into AI and the amount of compute that's going into AI, it's, at this point, it appears to be increasing by a factor of 10, the AI compute, the dedicated AI compute, appears to be growing by a factor of 10 every 6 months. So it's like basically close to, I'd say almost like a 100x improvement per year, at least for the next few years, in AI compute coming online. And it seems like probably a lot of the data centers, maybe most of the data centers that currently do kind of conventional compute will transition to AI compute. So it's certainly a good time to be NVIDIA, obviously. It's like, and you got to also give credit to Jensen and the NVIDIA team for kind of seeing this coming and making what at least currently is the best AI hardware out there. So when you have that level of compute growth, and it's sort of Moore's law on steroids next level, in terms of how much compute is coming online, then you're just going to have acceleration that is unprecedented. In fact, I've never seen any technology grow as fast as AI. And I've seen a lot. I've seen things fast, but I've never seen anything this fast. But like I said, I think the most likely outcome is a positive one. I think in that positive scenario, there's still challenges of like, well, how do we as humans still have relevance?
How do we find purpose? How do we find purpose?
I think that's sort of a high class problem to say, like, well, the computers are so good at doing everything, and like I said, I thought your book was pretty accurate in terms of the future being one of abundance, where essentially goods and services will be available in such quantity that really they'll be available to everyone. Like, basically, if you want something, you can just have it, essentially. Because if you've got AI and robotics, the cost of goods and services is almost nothing. If you think of, like, what is an economy? An economy is basically number of people times average productivity per person. At the point at which you have, say, advanced robotics, and this Tesla's developing Optimus. We've got cars, which are really robots on four wheels, and with the latest version of full self-driving, which is AI end-to-end, photons in and controls out. It really is it's really fully AI at this point. It looks like a car, but it's really a robot on wheels. And then you add the humanoid robots in there. There's really no limit to what the economic output, no meaningful limit to what the economic output would be. So, looking on the bright side, we are headed for a future of abundance. I think that's the most likely outcome. And I think the only scarcity that exists will be scarcity that we just decide to create artificially. Like, let's say we just decide that there's a unique work of art or something. Okay, well, it's just artificial scarcity. But any kind of goods and services, I think, will be extremely abundant.
Everybody, I want to take a short break from our episode to talk about a company that's very important to me and could actually save your life or the life of someone that you love. The company is called Fountain Life, and it's a company I started years ago with Tony Robbins and a group of very talented physicians. You know, most of us don't actually know what's going on inside our body. We're all optimists. Until that day when you have a pain in your side, you go to the physician in the emergency room and they say, listen, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have this stage 3 or 4 going on. And, you know, it didn't start that morning. It probably was a problem that's been going on for some time. But because we never look, we don't find out. So what we built at Fountain Life was the world's most advanced diagnostic centers. We have 4 across the US today, and we're building 20 around the world. These centers give you a full body MRI, a brain vasculature, an AI-enabled coronary CT looking for soft plaque, a DEXA scan, a GRAIL blood cancer test, a full executive blood workup. It's the most advanced workup you'll ever receive. 150 gigabytes of data that then go to our AIs and our physicians to find any disease at the very beginning when it's solvable. You're going to find out eventually. Might as well find out when you can take action. Fountain Life also has an entire side of therapeutics. We look around the world for the most advanced therapeutics that can add 10, 20 healthy years to your life, and we provide them to you at our centers. So if this is of interest to you, please go and check it out. Go to fountainlife.com/Peter. When Tony and I wrote our New York Times bestseller, Life Force, we had 30,000 people who reached out to us for Fountain Life memberships. If you go to fountainlife.com/Peter, we'll put you to the top of the list. Really, it's something that is, for me, one of the most important things I offer my entire family, the CEOs of my companies, my friends. It's a chance to really add decades onto our healthy lifespans. Go to fountainlife.com/Peter. It's one of the most important things I can offer to you as one of my listeners. All right, let's go back to our episode. You know, I can't imagine anybody who's done a better job peering into the future by actually creating the future. I'm curious, how far out do you think you're able to see? How many years out beyond today, given the speed of change?
Well, when things are changing rapidly, the ability to predict the future, I think, is becomes a lot harder because of the rate of change is so great. But I think some things are fairly obvious to predict, which is that we'll have AI or AGI that's at a level that it can really do almost any cognitive. I think really not almost, really any cognitive task. It's just a question of when. One could debate: is it, you know, smarter than any human at the end of next year, or is it 2 years or 3 years? But it's not more than 5 years, that's for sure. Yeah, and I give predictions. I'm sort of saying giving predictions at the 50th percentile of probability. So not like it will definitely happen, but if you say if you ask me like what's the 50th percentile, where it's like, you know, your kind of over under is kind of even. That's where I think it's probably end of next year before AI can do better than any individual human could do. And then, but it's a much higher bar to say, well, is it smarter than you know, human intelligence collectively? But if the rate of change continues, that's why I think probably 2029 or maybe 2030 is where digital intelligence will probably exceed all human intelligence combined. I think it's always helpful to look at these like fundamental ratios, you know, sort of physics first principles approach to looking at things, and
probabilistic, yeah, and probabilistic.
Yeah, yeah, it's probabilistic. So the Yeah. So um, if you look at the ratio of digital to biological compute, so like all of the higher level cognitive, if you sum up the higher level cognitive capacity of humans, and then what is the and think of that as compute, then and then compare that to what is the digital compute, um, and the rate at which this is growing is just boggles the mind. So that's why I think I think 2029 or 2030 or thereabouts is it's not a that's I think a reasonable time frame for where you'd expect the the cumulative digital compute to probably exceed the cumulative biological compute of higher level brain functions. Um,
And then from then forever, yeah, and still and dispatching and diverging forever from there.
yeah, and then where do things go from there? I don't know. Probably continues. Um, the we are moving from, say, if you look at the limiting factors of the what is the constraint on growth. Like last year, it was clearly AI chips were the constraint on growth. Um, then this year, the one of the biggest constraints, maybe the biggest constraints on growth, are voltage step down transformers, because the just getting the power from like a utility at 300 kilovolts all the way down to below 1 volt for the computer is a massive amount of voltage step down. So my sort of very, very niche and perhaps not that funny joke is that we need transformers for transformers. So you need voltage transformers for AI, neural net transformers. That is literally the issue this year. And then if we're saying like next year and years beyond that, it's going to be a constraints on electrical power. And you've got both AI with very big demands for electrical power and the transition to sustainable energy with electric vehicles and whatnot also needing electrical power. So it's just a lot of electrical power needs.
You know, Elon, one of the things that you said early on when you founded Neuralink, which has been amazing. Congratulations on that. And we talked about this with Ray yesterday. Talked about high bandwidth BCI. I wouldn't put words in your mouth, but I would say it would be more along the lines: if you can't beat them, join them. When it comes to merging the neocortex and the cloud, can you? I'm looking forward to it. I'm just curious what your thoughts are about what's driving that. I mean, adding that additional computational capacity and sensory capacity to the neocortex.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is actually something that in Banks, in the culture books, which I really recommend everyone read. Um, that in the culture books, there's something called a neural lace. So all the humans have this neural lace that's kind of a very high, essentially a high bandwidth brain to computer interface, and at least in the culture books, it's so good that it actually retains all of your memories and kind of brain state. So even if your physical body dies, you can kind of reincorporate it in another physical body and retain, pretty much your original memories and brain state. So now Neuralink is a long way from that. We only just had our first Neuralink in a human, which is going quite well. Um, the first patient is actually able to control their computer just by thinking. So like the first product we call telepathy, where you can control your computer and phone, and through your computer and phone almost anything, just by thinking. You just lie there and think, and you can move the mouse cursor around the screen and click things and play like we're going to do. The patient has agreed to do sort of like I think a live demo of he's quadriplegic, where he literally is just controlling the screen. He can like play video games, download software, like really anything you can do with a mouse, just by thinking, which is pretty wild.
It is pretty wild. Let's turn to one last. Yeah.
I should say there's a long way to go from that to a whole brain interface. So our current Neuralink just has 1,000 electrodes. I think ultimately you need something which has probably 100,000 or 1,000,000 electrodes. Now these are very tiny electrodes. They're tiny wires, way smaller than a human hair, so there's this. I just want to emphasize a long way from where Neuralink is today to having a whole brain interface like the neural lace in the Ian Banks novels. But this is definitely physically possible. It's sort of kind of like if you can't beat him, join him. So a human brain, which has a lot of constraints. We only have about maybe 10 watts of higher brain function, and we do a lot with our little 10 watts. It's not, it's impressive, that we've built an organization with such a low power computer, really.
It
so
is.
I sort of think it's like it's not bad for a bunch of monkeys,
Yeah, getting some good laughs from that. We've all watched you go from the Roadster to the Model 3 and Y, and from Falcon 1 to Starship. So I think going from the first implants to something that's got more capacity, it's just a matter of if, not when. Or a matter of when, not if, right?
Hey everyone, I want to take a quick break from this episode to tell you about a health product that I love and that I use every day. In fact, I use it twice a day. It's Seed's DS-01 Daily Symbiotic. Hopefully by now you understand that your microbiome and your gut health are one of the most important modifiable parts of your health. Your gut microbiome is connected to everything: your brain health, your cardiac health, your metabolic health. So the question is, what are you doing to optimize your gut? Let me take a moment to tell you about what I'm doing. Every day, I take 2 capsules of Seed's DS-01 Daily Symbiotic. It's a 2-in-1 probiotic and prebiotic formulation that supports digestive health, gut health, skin health, heart health, and more. It contains 24 clinically and scientifically proven probiotic strains that are delivered in a patented capsule that actually protects the contents from your stomach acid and ensures that 100% of it is survivable, reaching your colon. Now, if you want to try Seed's DS-01 Daily Symbiotic for yourself, you can get 25% off your first month's supply by using the code PETER25 at checkout. Just go to seed.com/moonshots and enter the code PETER25 at checkout. That's seed.com/moonshots and use the code PETER25 to get your 25% off the first month of Seed's Daily Symbiotic. Trust me, your gut will thank you. All right, let's go back to the episode.
Let's talk to.
I think ultimately, like I said, you'll have you'll have kind of a whole brain interface that I guess is a sort of perhaps a form of immortality in that if it can kind of upload your brain state to, if your brain state is essentially stored, you're kind of backed up on a hard drive, I suppose. Then you can always restore that brain state into a biological body or maybe a robot or something. And I want to emphasize again, it's like many years in the future, but we're not breaking any laws of physics. Like I think this is probably something that will happen. The rate at which we're building digital superintelligence, it may just be that we'll have digital superintelligence and it'll just solve the problem for us. But in the meantime, we'll keep progressing with our meat computers and trying to do as good a job as possible.
That's what I was going to say. The tools that we have are growing at a super exponential rate that are making our linear projections of the future seem boring in some ways. Yeah.
Yes.
One last topic, my friend, which is where you and I first connected in the world of space. Congratulations on Starship 3. Amazing flight. Just really spectacular. And we all saw a Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg last night, so that was great. And again, thankful for the work you're doing. You know, it's fascinating because I grew up at the late stages of the Apollo and into the shuttle program, and I can't imagine that any government would be pushing space as rapidly and dramatically as you are. And so, thank you for what you're doing there. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the goal of SpaceX is it's just a much bigger goal than any government program, which is to rockets and spacecraft that are capable of making life multiplanetary. So, you know, I mean, step one is actually having that as a goal. If you don't have that as a goal, you're definitely not going to achieve it. If you have it as a goal, well, now at least you have a chance of achieving it. And the thing about Starship is, it is the first rocket where making life multiplanetary and building a self-sustaining city on Mars is at least possible. It's still obviously an immense amount of work, but it is the first rocket where that is success in making life multiplanetary is at least one of the possible outcomes.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you're willing to venture a guess on when you'll be on the moon.
I think pretty soon. I'd be surprised if it's longer than about 3 years to be landing starships on the moon. And because the rate of progression of Starship is very rapid. You know, we're hoping to do at least another maybe 5 or 6 flights this year, and with each successive flight making significant improvements. So I think we got a decent shot of achieving full reusability of both stages, the booster and the ship, this year. And if not this year, I think, you know, knock on wood, I think it's a very high probability of achieving full reusability next year, which really is the fundamental breakthrough needed to make life multiplanetary.
I remember.
I mean, for those that don't know the rocket industry that well, that they may not be aware that this is really the holy grail of rocketry is full and rapid reusability, because at that point you're really just constrained by your propellant costs, and Starship, you know, almost 80% of the propellant is liquid oxygen, which is very low cost. And then the fuel is there's sort of a little over 20% fuel, which is methane, also the lowest cost fuel. So if you have full and rapid reusability, then your actual cost per flight of Starship, even though it'll be capable of, we think ultimately 200 tons to orbit, will be maybe on the $2 million a flight.
You missed that. It's 200,000. You said. The price of the fuel you said for a Starship flight would be how much?
Yeah, I mean, if most states are reusable and without a refurbishment, then without, you know, you'd have scheduled maintenance just like an aircraft. But if you get to full reusability where there's no work required between flights, then you then the cost, you know, is really the cost of propellant is maybe $1 million or less per flight. So then it's obviously number of flights, is maintenance. That's why I did $2 million for tons. Orders of magnitude better than any air vehicle.
Hey, buddy, listen, I'm so grateful. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for not taking my advice when I tried to get you to fund the original X Prize instead of starting SpaceX. And everybody here in the room has what we call a massive transformative purpose and a moonshot. And we're living in a day where people can make to use Steve Jobs' words, a dent in the universe, and nobody's making a bigger dent than you. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Let's give it up for Elon Musk.